If you want to get high test and shredded, you need to understand right now that carbs are a tool and is not necessary. So if you're eating the wrong carbs, you're using that tool in the wrong way, and it's going to kill your testosterone, leave you with shitty pumps, and you're never going to be able to get shredded. So in this video, I'm going to break down the bad carbs, the good carbs, and the great carbs to not only hit 1,000 plus testosterone, but to get as shredded as possible. So let's get into it. So the first carb is obviously going to be pasta. Pasta has no micronutrients, and 99% of the pasta is enriched. So when you eat enriched pasta, it spikes your blood sugar really high. In fact, higher than if you ate a massive meal with other carb sources. So when you spike your blood sugar really high, in an hour, 2 hours, guess what happens? You crash. Your energy shit, your testosterone is lower. Do not eat pasta at all. Pasta is not a carb source that is even natural. You should not ever think about eating pasta. Now the second thing is going to be bread. American bread is terrible for you. Same thing with pasta. It's enriched flour. What is that gonna do? It's gonna spike your blood sugar off the charts, and in 2 to 3 hours, you're gonna crash again. So avoid bread. Not only is bread gonna mess up with your blood sugar, leaving you with low energy, brain fog, all these other problems, but there's seed oils. There's other ingredients in there. I mean, look at a packet of bread. I'll pop an image up right here. There's fucking 15 ingredients in one piece of bread. Like, why are you eating something that has 15 ingredients? Bread should have 3 things: flour, yeast, and water. Like, it should not have anything else. Like, American bread is terrible. Do not eat bread if you want to get shredded in high test. Now, the third thing that people think is good for you is quinoa. Quinoa is a seed, guys, or a seed / grain. Quinoa is not a good source of a carb. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, it has a lot of fiber. I'm here to tell you right now, fiber is not what you need in your diet. What you need in your diet is micronutrients and clean ingredients, whole foods. If you have that, your gut health, your digestive tract is not going to be disrupted. But if you're eating things like quinoa every single day to get your fiber in, help your digestive system, you're gonna notice your digestive system's gonna be worse. So avoid quinoa as much as possible. These are the 3 carbs that you wanna avoid at all costs. Now we're gonna get into the good section. These are carbs that you can add in here and there if you want. But the truth is, if you actually want to be high test and shredded, they really aren't necessary, and it's just going to hold you back more often than not. So the first thing is going to be sourdough bread. Now, I know I said before that bread is bad, but sourdough bread, most sourdough breads, if you get it organic, from a farmer's market, it only has 3 ingredients. But the problem with sourdough bread is there's still very little micronutrients in the bread. And it is a good carb source if you want to get glycogen, but if you're trying to hit your micronutrients, your macros, it's not going to be really necessary to do all this and eat sourdough bread. So if you are going to eat sourdough bread, understand this: it is still going to spike your blood sugar. It is high on the glycemic index. So what you want to do is, if you eat bread, you want to eat it later in the day. Eat sourdough bread with your last meal of the day before you go to bed. That way it's not affecting your energy, your brain fog, your ability to focus, all that kind of stuff. You want to eat this later on throughout the day. Now, second, it's going to be rice. Rice is the same thing as, these breads. A lot of the rice in today's society is terrible. Has a bunch of pesticides, enriched, gonna give you brain fog, make you crash. If you want actual good rice, the rice that you need to eat is risotto rice. Risotto rice is from Italy. It's a very clean, high quality rice. And what's different from this rice as opposed to other rices is it's not enriched. When you enrich things, you add that folic acid, it denatures how the carb is actually working in your body, and it's gonna give you more brain fog. So only get risotto rice if you plan on eating rice. And if you do plan on eating rice, don't do more than half a cup a day, because you're just gonna be getting way too many carbs in your diet. And then the last good carb source, maple syrup. And the reason I say maple syrup is in the good category as opposed to the great category is because maple syrup is a sugar at the end of the day. It's a pure sugar. And as opposed to things, like fruit, honey, all these other sources, coconut water, all these things, the problem with that is it's not as nutrient dense. Maple syrup is a good carb if you just use a little bit. But if you're, getting maple syrup, you're getting rice, you're getting all these other carb sources, you're loading up on a tool that you don't need that much of. You really only need, 80, 100 grams of carbs a day. So if you're eating, a tablespoon of maple syrup every lunch, every dinner, you're getting 40, 50 grams of carbs just from some carb that's not even nutrient dense. So that's why I put it in the good category as opposed to the great category. But then when we go over to the great category, the first thing is obviously going to be fruits. You want to make sure that you're eating at least 3 to 4 pieces of fruit a day. Fruit is hydrating, loaded with micronutrients, loaded with hydration benefits, electrolytes, gives you more energy. Fruit is the staple for your carb source. And when I'm talking about fruits, you want to have hydrating fruits, mainly like watermelon, cantaloupe, pineapple, etc. Eat fruits like this that are gonna hydrate you more. That way you're getting more electrolytes, you're staying hydrated throughout the day, and you're staying fuller. You don't wanna go for the fruits that have a lot of fiber because fiber really isn't an essential nutrient. It's just something that goes through your body. So try to get more of these fruits if you can. Now, second is gonna be potatoes. Potatoes are a great source of carb because they have micronutrients. They're gonna give you more glycogen for workouts. They're not gonna spike your blood sugar as much if you eat a sweet potato as opposed to like a regular potato. So make sure you're just stacking it along with your workouts. And another thing to note about potatoes is don't eat skin. When you're eating sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, the skins have a lot of oxalates. They're also sprayed with a bunch of pesticides if you're not getting it organic. So do not eat the skin. It's not gonna be good in your gut. So I would just eat the inside of the potatoes if you're gonna eat that as a carb source. And then finally, honey. Make sure you're doing at least 1 tablespoon of honey a day. It has been shown that honey increases luteinizing hormone, which is gonna increase your testosterone. So make sure you're doing a tablespoon before the workout and maybe even a tablespoon before you go to bed. Integrate more honey and fruit into your diet. These are gonna be the staples of your diet. Once you have 2 tablespoons of honey in your diet, 3 pieces of fruit a day in your diet, maybe 1 sweet potato, I guarantee you that is gonna be the perfect recipe to getting shredded, getting high test, and getting jacked. And an honorable mention that I wanted to mention in this is going to be veggies. A lot of people think that vegetables are a great carb source because they're not really high in carbs, but they have a bunch of micronutrients. But It's just loaded with oxalates. It's loaded with empty carbs, gonna disrupt your gut, no micronutrient content. I know that potatoes are technically a vegetable, but you're not eating the defense chemical processes of a potato. You're not eating the skin. You're just eating the starches to get more glycogen to, get pumped in the gym, have a good workout, and have energy. But vegetables are completely different, those spinaches, those lettuces, those broccolis, all those, bullshit corn, all that bullshit is just gonna disrupt your gut, make you bloated, give you brain fog. Stay away from vegetables. And the final thing that I wanna talk about after going over all this is actually understanding your macros, because you can understand how to stack all this together, but if you don't understand how much you should be eating, that's the biggest thing. So when it comes to your macros, if you're on a bulk, you want to do 25% carbs. When you're bulking, you want to do 25% carbs because you need more carbohydrates in your diet. Your protein should be staying the same. Your fats should be around the same. You just want to add more carbs. But if you're cutting, you want to be around 15% carbs. That is the biggest thing, as I talked about in a couple other videos, is you want to cut out the carbs when you're trying to cut, because like I said before, carbs are a tool, they are not necessary. You want to use them to get good pumps, get micronutrients in, but you don't want to overdo it with the carbs. So really 15%, 25% is where you should be no matter what you're doing in your process. And if you're looking for one-on-one coaching to take your physique to the next level, increase your testosterone, and max out your gains, book a call with me in the link in the description, and I'll see if you're a good fit for my one-on-one coaching. But aside from that, hope you guys liked the video. Try to implement these carb sources and avoid all this BS right here, and I guarantee that you will get jacked and shredded.